Hyrox is on the rise, and in the UK it is more popular than CrossFit now.
Hundreds of thousands of people are either training for or competing in Hyrox now. Some people get confused, but Hyrox and CrossFit are not the same. They're so different, and it's really important you pick wisely.
If you're thinking of starting either CrossFit or Hyrox, it's so important that you pick the right one that fits with your goals and your lifestyle. And for that, one is going to be better than the other. So I'm going to go through 7 factors that you need to consider if you're thinking about doing either one or trying to choose between the two. So first, you need to think about your time. How much time do you have to train? When I started CrossFit, I had a lot of time. I was a student and I had like a couple of days off during the week, so I could literally train like double days. Now I'm a mum, I have a lot less time. I can only go to the gym 3 days a week, and I have time to go out for runs and do some other stuff outside of the gym, but I can't really do more than 3 gym sessions. Logistically, it's really difficult to take my baby to the gym. It's just hard. I'm fitting so many other things in and I'm limited on time. My life has shifted quite a lot over the years, and it means I now have a lot less time than I used to. So CrossFit, in order to be good at CrossFit and to keep improving at CrossFit, they recommend that you do like at least 5 days a week. A lot of gyms only offer an unlimited plan, which means that you can do unlimited sessions and it's more of a premium membership. If you've got loads of time to play with and you really want a hobby that can take up a lot of your time, then CrossFit is a great idea. But if you struggle with not having a huge amount of time, maybe you're like me and you'll only be doing CrossFit like 3 days a week, you might not reach the goals that you want to reach. And I'll get on to why in a minute when we touch on skill, but 3 days a week might not feel like enough. CrossFit sessions, however, are only an hour, and it really depends on your commute time to the gym, how much time that is going to take out of your day. In the UK, like, we have about 30-minute commutes everywhere where I live. I am really lucky, but I know in the US it can be like 1 to 2 hour commutes, which is insane. And if you're going to the gym like 5 days a week and you've got a 1 to 2 hour commute, how are you fitting anything else in? With Hyrox, it's slightly easier to fit in if you're limited for time. You can get away with doing 2 to 3 strength-based sessions a week in order to hit your strength goals, depending on where your strength base is right now. If you're starting from scratch, 3 is probably best, but if you're like me and you already have a big strength base, then you could probably get away with 2, and my weakness is running, so I want to run a lot more. Runs can be slightly easier to fit in, and they don't need to be as long as a CrossFit session. My runs at the moment are only 30 minutes, and I will be pushing that so that they are longer the better I get at running. That means if you've got less time, it is easier to fit in. And if you want to compete in Hyrox or CrossFit competitions typically take up the entire day, or even 2 days, or even 3 days. I've done a 3-day competition, whereas a Hyrox competition is only up to like, I think 3 hours is the cutoff. Actually, I'm not sure if they have a cutoff, but most people do it within the like 1 to 3 hour mark. I think the average is like an hour and a half. So the next thing we need to consider is skill. And we can't look at this as like a diss on one sport or the other because one contains less skill. Because remember, like, marathon running is technically low skill. There's one skill, there's running. CrossFit has lots of skills that you need to develop. So it's got gymnastics, Olympic weightlifting, and cardio. The cardio is mostly based on machines. The gymnastics involves pull-ups, muscle-ups, handstand push-ups, handstand walks, an endless list of gymnastic skills, and they get added to most years when they do the CrossFit Games. And Olympic lifting, and also like squats and deadlifts and stuff. And Olympic weightlifting is a pretty high skill technical thing that you need a long time to learn. It takes most people a couple of years to learn the specific technique for Olympic weightlifting. And if you struggle with mobility, if you can't get into something like an overhead squat, then it's going to take you a lot longer because of that mobility. You should have to work on that in order to get into the position that you need to be in for a snatch. If you struggle to learn complex skills, or you don't have the time to dedicate to CrossFit, you might feel like you're lagging behind, and over the space of a few years you might not progress as much as you want to on all of the skills because there's literally so many of them. Hyrox, on the other hand, is a lot lower skill. There's only a handful of movements, so there's sled push, sled pull, wall balls. Wall balls are probably the most difficult mobility wise because of the deep squat, but that is like pretty accessible for a lot of people. There's farmer's carry, definitely burpees, obviously a lot of running, rowing and ski erg. I don't think I missed anything. So those are all like relatively low skill movements. That's not a bad thing. Grid League is far higher skill than CrossFit. Something being high skill doesn't necessarily mean that it's better or the best thing for you, or that people that do the higher skill thing are better than others. It's just a matter of fact that there are less skills to learn for Hyrox than there are for CrossFit. And that can be a bonus for people that are looking for something that is effective and doesn't take up all of their time, and they'll see progress quite quickly and will fit into a phase of life that they're at currently. Like for me, I really want to see progress, and I know that I'm not going to see progress in CrossFit only training in the gym 3 days a week. So for me right now, the Hyrox skills are really accessible. I can already do all of them, and running is something that I want to improve. I have no interest in getting kipping pull-ups. I don't want to get my muscle ups back. I don't really care about doing handstand push-ups. I don't even care about making my Olympic lifts bigger because they're already pretty big as they are. I've done it for 8 years. I don't care about that anymore. And I don't really care to work on those skills more than I already have. And that's just me and my personal choice. I'd rather spend my life spending time with my daughter and doing things that are valuable to me whilst getting fitness in that fits in with my life and does something that's at a skill level that I actually want, rather than something that's a bit much. Like I don't want to turn up to a CrossFit class and there be handstand push-up drills when I don't care about getting handstand push-ups anymore. I just want to be fit and strong. So you've got to weigh up those two things. Are you looking to do a new sport that has a load of incredible skills that you can learn and that you will enjoy learning? Then CrossFit might be for you. But if you want something that the skills are more accessible and you just want to be fit and strong, then Hyrox might be the better choice. Now, the duration of workouts are different for the two of them. For something like Hyrox, the actual event is like 1.5 to 2 hours, somewhere around that for the average person. So the workouts that you're doing, you want them to be long. That doesn't mean they need to take up more time. It just means within the session, they're going to be longer duration. So you might spend less time than CrossFit does on the skills base. In CrossFit, the average workout length is 15 minutes. And they definitely favour intensity, especially in classes, over long time domain endurance stuff. They do long endurance workouts, but they are less frequent. And the ones that are considered long are like between 20 and 30 minutes. There are some that like an hour long, but Murph, for example, is about an hour long. It's not really an endurance workout. It's like a strength endurance workout, but it's not like full on cardio unless you're an elite athlete, and then you can go fast enough. But for a lot of people, they're like burning out on the push-ups, they're burning out on the pull-ups. It's not cardio, it's just a long workout. Budget is definitely a big one you need to consider. So CrossFit gyms can be quite expensive, but the reason CrossFit gyms are expensive is because you're paying for in-person kind of group personal training, so you're paying for a coach. And I personally do think it's worth it because you want to learn all of those different skills that I spoke about earlier. You need somebody in there coaching you. But if you don't have the budget to pay the amount that your gym costs in your area, you can't afford it, and that's okay. With hybrid training and Hyrox, it can be cheaper because you can train for it in like a Globo gym, like a traditional gym. Because it doesn't have the high skill, you really don't need like advanced coaching. There's no Olympic weightlifts to learn, there's no muscle ups to learn. You can literally just go in and train. There are loads of Hyrox workouts out there you can find online. You can just train for Hyrox. You can also go to a Hyrox affiliate, and I think a lot of those are affiliates that were like CrossFit affiliates, so they are going to be a similar price to CrossFit. But if you are really into team training, working out with a group of people, then that's something that you can consider. There are lots of Hyrox affiliates in the UK and the rest of the world. I think the US is lagging behind a little bit, but it will catch up. It's just a really big place, so they obviously have less Hyrox affiliates, and the events have only just come to the US as well. I did my first Hyrox in 2021. I've got my Hyrox Pro sticker. It's not a sticker, it's like a badge. I wish it was a medal. So it's been in the UK a hell of a lot longer than it has been in the US, but I'm sure there'll be more Hyrox affiliates eventually. So the next point is coaching. CrossFit coaching is excellent in most places. They're really good at teaching Olympic weightlifting, gymnastics, the methodology. It's got quite a good system in training a lot of coaches, and you actually get coaching. Like say you're training for a Hyrox and you're in a regular gym that isn't a Hyrox affiliate, you're not going to get coaching. So that's definitely a plus for for CrossFit if it's something that you think that you need. But also look out for Hyrox affiliates, and because Hyrox is so popular, there will also be loads of personal trainers that will be able to easily train you for a Hyrox, because again, it's not as high skill as CrossFit, so you don't require somebody that is like an elite Hyrox coach. You could literally just go to a regular personal trainer and they'll be able to teach you. There is this slight problem with
CrossFit coaches
being really mad about Hyrox, and I don't really understand it. I get the kind of feeling that it's more the US coaches than it is the UK coaches. I've had loads of messages about this recently. People telling me that the coaches at their box have been saying horrible things about people that want to do Hyrox, saying it's easy, saying they're stupid for wanting to do it. It's not cool. And shitting on another methodology or type of fitness is never okay. And CrossFit is a space that always talks about how amazing the community is and what family they are and how lovely everybody is to everybody and how they leave the ego at the door and blah blah blah. And I had a couple of coaches in my DMs the other day that proved, I mean, I can just literally show you these, because before, all I had was the members of CrossFit boxes that were telling me this, and a couple of people that claimed to be CrossFit coaches in my YouTube comments shitting on Hyrox. But these people publicly said this on my page. So these two are CrossFit coaches, and she says, if my athletes were trying for a Hyrox, I would definitely tell them that CrossFit is the best way to train. I can see how it's appealing though. It took the hard stuff out of CrossFit and you can do it over and over and over. So they're basically saying it's easier than CrossFit. And also CrossFit is a good way of training for Hyrox. It's not. Like, it's literally not. In order to do a Hyrox, you need to be able to run, and CrossFit does not involve a lot of running. So you need to do running on top of doing CrossFit. You could train for Hyrox doing CrossFit, and I did. And in a couple of months, I'll be able to show the difference between when I literally just did Hyrox with CrossFit training and then when I did it including training for actual Hyrox with Hyrox sessions. We'll be able to see the difference. I don't agree with that at all. But you could train for a Hyrox doing CrossFit. You just wouldn't do as well as you would do if you actually focused on like actual Hyrox training and doing the long time duration and doing the longer cardio pieces. And then also, especially if you've only got 3 days a week, if you've got less time, practicing ring muscle ups is not going to be helpful for your Hyrox journey. And then this woman went even further, and she said a lot to me, to be honest. She had a go at me for a really long time and said stuff like, your problem is you're fucking soft. She hates me, that's clear. And all of these people are really mad because I am transitioning out of CrossFit into Hyrox, and they don't like that. But she said, I could literally go and do a Hyrox tomorrow in fucking Crocs and dominate everybody there, all while training CrossFit. And then your problem, here's your fucking soft. CrossFit is an analogy for life. This is the problem with CrossFit coaches, is a lot of them are really invested in CrossFit and will defend it to the end of the earth, and they believe it is the best training methodology for everybody doing everything, and it's not. And she claimed to have done an Ironman. There is no way she did an Ironman just doing CrossFit classes. She definitely swam, biked and ran. And the audience that I'm talking to, the people watching hopefully, and the people that follow my Instagram are all people like me that we're not going to be training an open gym. We're going to be doing CrossFit classes or training separately and doing something like Hyrox. We're not elite CrossFitters. And yeah, cool, like you did an Ironman, you definitely trained for that Ironman. The problem is, sometimes CrossFit coaches can be like that, and if you're in CrossFit, that might be okay for you. But if you're stuck between the two and maybe want to dabble in both CrossFit and Hyrox, you might get that attitude from some of the CrossFit coaches, because over in the US it seems like they don't think it's gonna overtake CrossFit or be big over there, and I think they're in the mode where they think they can push back on it now and that they can kind of prevent it from becoming a big thing, and it's not going to happen. So popularity is the next one. Do you want to be doing something that is popular? The events are getting bigger and bigger in Hyrox's case. On Google Trends in the UK, Hyrox has overtaken CrossFit, and on Google Trends in the US, you can see the increase in popularity in Hyrox. CrossFit is also a very popular sport, but it's been around for a lot longer, and it is on a slight decline. Popularity can be a factor because maybe you want there to be loads of people at the events that you attend. Going to a Hyrox is an incredible spectacle because there are so many people. Maybe you want to follow loads of content that people are making, and there are loads loads of CrossFit content creators as well, but there's a whole lot of Hyrox content out there at the moment that you can follow and watch and motivate you on your journey. And Hyrox is really big right now in most of the world, and it's only going to get bigger than it already is. I don't believe that CrossFit is going to get any bigger than it currently is right now. And unfortunately, being a US sport, the way that a lot of US sports tend to function.
The NBA finals, and they have world champion on their head. World champion of what? The United States? Don't get me wrong. I love the US at times. But that ain't the world.
They neglect the rest of the world, and that's definitely something that CrossFit has done. The CrossFit Games happens every year in the US. A lot of the elite athletes have to travel over there. You have to travel over there if you want to watch it. The US gets way more spots than everybody else for the CrossFit Games, and a lot of the CrossFit media is really focused on a US audience. For instance, they still don't mention the weights in kilos when you're watching like a lift off. Because they literally don't care about that, even though the rest of the world does weights in kilos, but the US use pounds. It's a really simple tweak, but it just shows like how much they don't care about the rest of the world, whereas Hyrox is popular in the rest of the world. So if you're in somewhere like Germany is where it started, if you're in Europe, if you're in Australia, if you're in another country that isn't the US, Hyrox being more popular in those areas and more accepted might help you get into it. It might feel like a better vibe. If you are in the US where it's not that popular right now, and there is, from what I can gather, a bit of pushback, it might not be something that you want to do. And also, on the other hand, you might be really not into doing things that are super popular, and hybrid training is a massive trend right now. And if you don't want to go with the crowd and you want to do something completely different, then probably neither of these things are for you. But like, hybrid training is definitely a huge trend. So next we've got competitive level. Are you somebody that wants to compete, and what level do you want to compete at? If you're someone that just wants to give it a go but also compete at the same kind of competitions the elites compete at, like say you were doing a triathlon and like other elite athletes also do triathlon, you're doing the same thing. That's where Hyrox is really good, because you can go and do a Hyrox anywhere. They're all exactly the same. The elite athletes also compete at the same Hyrox events so that they can qualify for the World Championships. They are large scale competitions and they're really good fun. On the other hand, the CrossFit season, the CrossFit Open and the quarterfinals, they're all done online. You do the workouts in your gym and you do something called Friday Night Lights, or you'll do the workout in a class during the week and you get to take part, but it's not as much of a spectacle. It's not like a big competition. You just enter your scores online. It is a fun thing to do. I've done the Open a fair amount, and sometimes it was fun, sometimes it wasn't fun. If you do want to compete, maybe have a think about whether you want to compete live in person or whether you want to compete mostly online, because the only way you're going to be competing in person as a CrossFitter is if you're like an elite athlete. Unless you want to do competitions that are not strictly Hyrox or CrossFit, then there are loads of competitions out there that are completely varied. So if you want to do something like Hyrox but you don't really like running, there are hybrid competitions that have less running in them, like Athex is one that's getting bigger. I think there's something called the Triathlon here in the UK, which sounds great. I really want to do one of those, although it might have running in it, I'm not sure. There are some that have like lifting, but it's not complex Olympic weightlifting, that's more hybrid. I did a hybrid competition the other week. And then there are also like CrossFit competitions, but they can't call them CrossFit, that have all of the skills that you need to be able to do. Like the RX categories, you typically need to be able to do the handstand push-ups and the muscle ups and like kipping, butterfly pull-ups, lift really heavy weights, all of those. In order to enter them, there are like minimum standards, and then they have scale competitions as well. There is a broad range of competitions that you can choose from for each sport if you're not just doing the name brand CrossFit or Hyrox. But that's something to consider. If you just want to do it for fun and train for either just because you want to train for them, then that's cool too. And personally, I'm going into doing the Hyrox with I just want to give it a go, and my goal is to complete it. Ambition, I'm 4 months postpartum, so completing it will be a big achievement. But you need to go into this decision knowing a little bit more about each sport so that you can pick between them. Neither one is better than the other. It's just what's better for you right now. And I hope that helped a little bit in helping you figure it out. I literally did a hybrid competition the other week. If you want to watch what happened in that hybrid competition, then watch this video next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.